Captain Daewon Kim stood at the window of his ship, staring at the massive alien station ahead. His heart was beating fast. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for hundreds of years. First contact with aliens, real aliens. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. It floated in space near Proxima Centauri, glowing with strange lights. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like fish in the ocean. None of them looked like human ships. They were too smooth, too perfect, too alien. Behind him, Ambassador Hee-Jin Park was reading through her notes one more time. She looked calm, but Daewon could see her hands shaking slightly. This meeting would change everything for Earth. It's going to be fine, Daewon told himself. They invited us here. They want to meet us. 2 months earlier, Earth had received a message from the stars. The Galactic Council wanted to talk. They said humanity was ready to join the galactic community. People on Earth celebrated for days. Finally, they were not alone in the universe. The meeting room inside the station was enormous. 15 different alien species sat around a circular table. Some looked almost human. Others were completely strange. One looked like a floating ball of light. Another was covered in crystal scales that changed colors. Ambassador Park bowed politely and sat down. She smiled at the aliens. "We are honored to be here," she said. "Earth is ready to join the Galactic Council." For 3 months, everything went well. The Council showed humanity amazing technology. Faster ships, clean energy, medicines that could cure any disease. Earth signed trade agreements. Human colonies started appearing on new worlds outside the solar system. Then the accusations started. Admiral Tae-Yang Lee was called to the Council station. He thought it was a normal meeting. But when he arrived, armed alien guards surrounded him. The Council leaders looked angry. "Humanity has lied to us," one of the Council members said. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "You are dangerous. Too violent. Too unpredictable." Admiral Lee felt his blood run cold. "What are you talking about? We have followed every rule. We have been peaceful." The Council showed him videos from Earth's history. Wars, nuclear bombs, pollution, destroyed forests. They showed him crime statistics, military weapons, and angry crowds fighting in the streets. "Look at your own planet," the Council leader said. "You destroy your own home. You kill your own people. What will you do to the galaxy if we let you spread?" "That's our past," Admiral Lee argued. "We are changing. We are better now. Give us a chance," but the Council had already decided. They voted. 14 species voted to remove humanity from the Council. Only one voted to give Earth another chance. The Council invoked something called the Quarantine Protocol. It was an old law, created thousands of years ago to contain dangerous species. They would seal Earth's solar system inside an invisible barrier. No one could get in or out. "You are too young, too reckless," the Council leader said. "In a few thousand years, maybe you will be ready. Until then, stay in your cage." When the barrier came down, President Ji-Woo Choi was in a meeting with his advisors. Suddenly, every screen went dark. The connections to the colony worlds disappeared. Ships in space stopped moving, frozen in place by some invisible force. Dr. Young-Soo Kang was one of Earth's top scientists. He studied the barrier for weeks. It was made of quantum energy, something humans barely understood. It surrounded the entire solar system like a bubble. Nothing could pass through it, no ships, no signals, nothing. But the worst part was what happened to the colonies. 12 million humans lived outside the solar system on 17 different worlds. When the barrier went up, they were cut off from Earth. They were alone. Governor Minna Song ran the colony on New Sol, a planet 40 light-years from Earth. She was in her office when the communication stopped. At first, she thought it was just a technical problem. But hours passed, then days, and still nothing. When they finally figured out what happened, panic spread through the colony. They had no support from Earth, no new supplies, no military protection, and the aliens in the nearby systems knew humanity had been abandoned. Minna called a meeting with all the colony leaders. Her face appeared on screens in every home. "We are not alone," she told her people. "We have each other. Earth may be gone, but we are still human. We will survive." But deep inside, Minna was terrified. How could they survive without Earth? They were just farmers and miners and scientists. They were not warriors. They were not prepared for this. 2 weeks after the barrier went up, the first attack came. Alien ships appeared over the mining colony on Daewoo Station. They were krill ships, insect-like creatures that raided weak colonies for resources. Commander Hyunwoo Nam was in charge of the station's small security force. He had 20 soldiers and 3 old patrol ships. The Krill had 50 warships. "Evacuate everyone to the mines," Hyunwoo ordered. "Seal the tunnels. We will buy you time." His ships flew out to meet the Krill. It was a hopeless fight, but they had no choice. As the battle began, Hyunwoo thought about his family back on Earth, trapped behind the barrier. He would probably never see them again. Then something unexpected happened. The humans fought dirty. They used asteroids as cover. They set traps. They pretended to retreat, then ambushed the Krill from behind. The Krill were confused. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. Hyunwoo's forces lost 2 ships, but they destroyed 5 Krill vessels. The Krill retreated shocked. They had expected an easy victory over a weak, abandoned colony. Instead, they found humans who refused to follow the rules. News of the battle spread through the human colonies. If Daewoo Station could survive, maybe they all could, but they needed to work together. On Earth, President Choi addressed the planet. His face was tired, his voice heavy with sadness. "The Council has abandoned us," he said. "They have trapped us here like animals in a zoo, but we will not give up. We will find a way through this barrier. We will reunite with our people in the colonies. This is not the end of humanity's story. It is just the beginning." Dr. Kang worked day and night on the barrier. Other scientists joined him. They studied every piece of data they could find. The barrier was powerful, but it had to have a weakness. Everything had a weakness. Meanwhile, in the colonies, the humans began to change. Without Earth's guidance, they had to think for themselves. They had to be creative. They had to survive. And the Galactic Council, sitting in their comfortable stations, had no idea what they had just created. They thought they had contained a danger. Instead, they had set humanity free. The war was over, but the hardest decisions were just beginning. Humanity had the power to conquer. The question was whether they should dodge. General Junho Han stood before the Earth War Council, his uniform covered in medals from 50 battles. He was respected, feared, and very sure of what needed to happen next. "We have won," he said, his voice hard. "But if we stop now, the Council will rebuild. In 10 years, 20 years, they will come for us again. We must occupy their core worlds. We must ensure they can never threaten us again." Some people in the room nodded. It made sense. After all humanity had suffered, why take the risk? But Chancellor Mi-young Park, the newly elected leader of Earth's government, had a different view. She was young for such an important position, but everyone respected her wisdom. "General Han," she said quietly, "I understand your fear, but think about why the Council quarantined us in the first place. They were afraid of us. They saw us as dangerous. If we conquer them now, were they wrong?" "We are dangerous," Han replied. "That is why we survived. That is why we won," yes, Mi-young agreed. "But there is a difference between being dangerous to our enemies and becoming what our enemies feared. If we conquer the Council, we become exactly what they said we were. Violent, aggressive, unable to live peacefully with others." The room was silent. People were thinking about her words. "Power without wisdom is just tyranny," Mi-young continued. "We have the power to take revenge, but is that who we want to be? Is that the legacy we want to leave?" After days of debate, Mi-young's view won. Humanity would not conquer. Instead, they would offer something different, something new. Sejin Kim was chosen as humanity's chief diplomat. His job was to organize what they called the Galactic Summit. For the first time in 100,000 years, every major species in the galaxy would meet as equals. The summit was held on Earth, in a new building constructed specifically for this purpose. It could hold representatives from 200 different species. The design mixed human architecture with styles from dozens of alien cultures. Sejun stood at the podium on the first day, looking at the assembled delegates. Some were former council members, some were species humanity had liberated, some had been neutral in the war. "For too long," he began, "the galaxy has been ruled by fear. Fear of change, fear of the different, fear of the new. The Council maintained order by suppressing anyone who challenged them. They called it peace, but it was just control." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Humanity proposes a different way. Not a new empire, not a new council with new masters, but a true alliance of free peoples." Sejun presented the Charter of Free Worlds. It was simple. Every species had the right to develop as they wished. Every species had the right to explore and expand. Every species had the right to make mistakes and learn from them. No one would have the power to quarantine another species just because they were different or seemed dangerous. The charter included mutual defense. If one member was attacked, all would respond. But it also included mutual respect. No forced trade. No cultural domination, just cooperation between equals. Not everyone accepted. The Valdris, humiliated by their defeat, refused to sign. 3 other council species joined them. They left the summit in anger, retreating to the Galactic Rim where they could maintain their old ways. "Let them go," Mi-young said. "They will either change over time or they will fade away. We cannot force them to accept freedom." But 40 species signed the charter that first day. More joined over the following months. Within a year, most of the galaxy had chosen the new way. 50 years after the barrier first trapped Earth, Old Admiral Dae-Won Kim returned to Proxima Station. The same station where humanity's troubles began. But it looked different now. The station had been rebuilt. It was no longer a council facility. It was now the headquarters of the Alliance of Free Worlds. Ships from 100 species docked there every day. Dae-Won was old now, walking slowly with a cane. His grandson, Ensign Jae-Won Kim, walked beside him. The young man had never seen the old council. He had grown up in a different galaxy. "Is it true you were here when it all started?" Jae-Won asked. "Yes," Dae-Won said quietly. "I brought Ambassador Park here to join the council. I was so hopeful that day. I thought we were becoming part of something great." "But they rejected us," Jae-Won said. "They did more than that," Dae-Won replied. "They tried to cage us, to keep us small and controlled. But they forgot something important about humans." "What?" "We do not stay down. We do not give up. Push us down and we find a way to rise. Lock us away and we break free. Every obstacle they put in our path just made us stronger." Earth was prosperous now. The planet had recovered from the long darkness after the barrier fell. Cities gleamed with new technology, mixing human innovation with gifts from alien allies. The sky was full of ships from 100 different worlds. The rapid expansion had slowed. Humanity no longer rushed to claim every system they could reach. Instead, they focused on building relationships, sharing knowledge, and helping other species find their own paths. But on the frontier, new discoveries were still being made. Captain Yuna Choi was exploring an uncharted region near the galactic edge. Her science team had detected strange energy readings from a dead planet. When they landed, they found ruins. Not recent ruins, but ancient ones, buildings that had stood for millions of years, made from materials that had not decayed at all. "This is older than any civilization in our records," Yuna's science officer said, studying the structures with wonder. They found data cores deep inside the ruins. It took weeks to decode the information, but when they did, the message was clear. A warning. The ancient civilization had spanned the entire galaxy once. They had been powerful, peaceful, and prosperous. Then something came from beyond the galactic rim, something that destroyed them completely. The warning said it would return. Every 50 million years, it came back to clear the galaxy and start over. And according to the data, it was almost time. Yuna sent the report to Earth immediately. When the Alliance leaders read it, they understood. All their wars, all their struggles with the Council, they had all been small problems. The real threat was still coming. Chancellor Mi-young called an emergency session. Representatives from every Alliance species gathered. "We do not know exactly when this threat will arrive," she told them. "But we know it is coming, and we know that no single species can face it alone. This is why the Alliance exists. This is why we chose cooperation over conquest. The species that had once been enemies now planned together. The Council had kept everyone separate, competing, weak. Humanity had brought them together. And that unity might be the only thing that could save them all." Back on Earth, in the memorial park dedicated to those who died during the barrier years, there was a simple stone with words carved into it. Dae-Won liked to visit it when he needed to remember where humanity came from. The stone read, "They tried to break us. They only made us stronger." Dae-Won was invited to give a speech at the Alliance Hall. It would be his last public appearance. He was too old now, too tired, but he had something to say. He stood at the podium looking at faces from 100 different worlds. Some had skin like his. Some had scales or feathers or metal, but they were all here together. 50 years ago, he began, the Council left us to die. They believed we were too dangerous to live among them. And they were right to fear us, but wrong about why. We are dangerous. Not because we are violent, though we can be when we must. We are dangerous because we refuse to accept defeat. We refuse to stay in our place. We refuse to be told what we can and cannot become. His voice grew stronger. The council abandoned us at our weakest moment. They thought isolation would contain us. Instead, it taught us to stand on our own. They thought fear would control us. Instead, it united us. They tried to end our story. Instead, they gave us our greatest chapter. We conquered this galaxy not through superior technology, not through ancient wisdom. We conquered it through something simpler and stronger. We refused to give up. We turned every obstacle into an opportunity, every enemy into a lesson, every defeat into fuel for our rise. And now, when a new threat comes, we will not face it alone. We will face it together, as free peoples, as equals, as friends. That, more than any weapon or fleet, is why humanity will endure whatever comes next. Because we learned that strength does not come from power over others. It comes from standing together. The hall erupted in applause. Not just polite applause, but real emotion from beings who had learned to trust each other through hardship. Daewon stepped down from the podium slowly. His grandson was waiting to help him. As they walked out, Jaewon looked at his grandfather with pride. "That was beautiful, grandfather." "It was the truth," Daewon said simply. "The council feared what we might become, and they were right to fear. We became exactly what we needed to be." Outside, the Earth sky was full of stars. Each star represented possibilities. New worlds, new friends, new challenges. The abandoned had become the protectors. The exiles had become the leaders. And humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. 20 years had passed since the council abandoned humanity. The scattered colonies had not just survived. They had grown strong. Jae-hyun Cho was only 12 years old when the barrier went up. He grew up on a colony ship, never seeing Earth, always moving between the stars. Now he was supreme commander of what people called the Exile Fleet. The Exile Fleet was not like Earth's old navy. It was made of colony ships, mining vessels, and anything else that could fly and fight. But it was powerful. Over 2,000 ships, all crewed by people who knew how to survive against impossible odds. Jae-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at representatives from 5 different alien species on his screen. These were the other exiles, the ones the council had thrown away. "We have fought alone for too long," Jae-hyun said. "Each of us is strong, but together we could be unstoppable. I propose we form a real alliance, not just trading information, but standing together." The Trell representative, now an old friend of the human colonies, spoke first. "You want to fight the council?" "No," Jae-hyun said. "I want to free everyone the council has imprisoned. I want to give other species the choice we never had. And yes, if the council tries to stop us, we fight." The Vorn representative, a being of living crystal that shimmered with inner light, asked a question. "The council is ancient and powerful. How can we hope to win?" "Because they have not fought a real war in 10,000 years, Jae-hyun answered. "They have forgotten how to struggle. We have not." The Dresh, speaking through their mechanical translation device, made a clicking sound that meant agreement. "The humans have taught us much about unconventional warfare. The council expects order and rules. We will give them chaos." After long discussions, they all agreed. The Exile Coalition was born. It was not official. No treaties, no ceremonies, just a promise between people who had all been thrown away by the same enemy. Admiral Su Young-han became the coalition's main military teacher. She had studied every war in human history, from ancient times to the space age. Now she taught those lessons to aliens who had never seen war before. The Trell learned about ambushes and false retreats. The Vorn learned how to use their crystal bodies to jam enemy sensors. The Dresh learned to hack into enemy computer systems during battle. Every species brought their own strengths, and Su Young showed them how to use those strengths in unexpected ways. The council noticed something was wrong when their patrol ships started disappearing. At first they thought it was just pirates. But then whole stations went dark. Supply lines were disrupted. Small colonies on the edge of council space asked for protection. The council sent investigators. What they found shocked them. The quarantined species were not in their cages anymore. They were organized. They had weapons. They had a fleet. "This is impossible," one council member said. "The quarantine barriers are unbreakable, but the barriers only trapped the home systems. They did not trap the ships and people who were already outside. And over 20 years, those people had built a new civilization, On Earth, things were different. 40 years had passed behind the barrier, but people had not given up. A whole generation had been born never knowing freedom. They had grown up with the barrier as a simple fact of life, like the sky or the ocean. Wu Jinbei was one of those children. His father had worked on the barrier before he died. Now Wu Jin continued his work. He had spent his entire adult life studying the quantum field that trapped his world. One night, while reviewing old data, Wu Jin saw something his father had missed. The barrier drew power from the solar system, but it was not completely efficient. Tiny amounts of energy leaked away. Over decades, that leak had grown larger. He ran to find physicist Yuna Kim. She was the only person on Earth who understood quantum fields as well as he did. Together they worked for months, checking and rechecking their math. Finally, they had an answer. "We can collapse the barrier," Wu Jin told the president. "But it will take all the power Earth can generate. Every power plant, every solar panel, every energy source we have, all at once." President Sang-Hoon Lee looked at the young scientist. "What will happen to Earth if we do this? We will have no power for months, maybe years," Yuna explained. "No electricity, no heat, no technology. We will be completely defenseless, and if we do nothing?" the president asked. "We stay in this cage forever," Wu Jin said simply. President Lee called an emergency council. For 3 days, Earth's leaders debated. Some wanted to wait to be safer. Others wanted to act now. Finally, the president made his choice. "Our people in the colonies have been fighting for 40 years without us," he said. "They have not given up. We cannot give up either. Begin the preparations. We tear down this barrier. It took 6 months to get ready." Every person on Earth knew what was coming. They stored food. They prepared for the long darkness. They said goodbye to electricity and comfort. On the chosen day, Wu Jin stood in the control center. Around the world, every power source was connected to a massive grid. The energy would be channeled into one burst, hitting the barrier at its weakest point. "Ready?" Yuna asked. Wu Jin took a deep breath. "For my father," he said. "For everyone who dreamed of freedom." "Activate." The world went dark. Every light went out. Every machine stopped. For one terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then the sky began to glow. The barrier, invisible for 40 years, suddenly became visible as it started to break apart. It looked like the northern lights, but 1,000 times brighter. Colors nobody had names for rippled across the sky. The barrier was dying. Then, with a sound like breaking glass that somehow echoed in the vacuum of space, the barrier shattered. Earth was free. But there was no time to celebrate. The council had been watching. The moment the barrier fell, they sent a fleet. Not to welcome Earth back, to secure it before humanity could become a threat. 300 council warships jumped into the solar system. They expected to find a weak, primitive Earth. They expected easy victory. Instead, they found Commander Jae-hyun Cho waiting with the entire exile fleet. The colonies had known Earth would try to break free someday. They had been watching, waiting for this moment. When the barrier fell, they came home. 2,000 exile ships faced 300 council vessels. The council commander demanded surrender. Jae-hyun laughed. "You abandoned us," he said. "You thought we would die alone in the dark, but we found friends. We learned to fight. We became strong, and now we are here to stay." The Battle of Seoul began. Captain Hae-won-young led Earth's defense forces. Even without power, Earth had weapons. Old missiles, railguns, everything that did not need electricity had been prepared. The council ships fought in neat formations, following their battle doctrine exactly. The exile fleet fought like humans had taught them. They ambushed from behind asteroids. They used debris as weapons. They targeted weak points with precision strikes. The Trell ships moved in ways council sensors could not track. The Vorn created false signals that confused enemy targeting. The Dresh hacked into council computers and turned their own weapons against them. The battle lasted 3 days. When it was over, the council fleet retreated in disorder. They had lost a third of their ships. The exile fleet had lost fewer than 50. As the last council ship jumped away, Jae-hyun broadcast a message that every species in the galaxy would hear. "This is Commander Jae-hyun Cho of humanity and the Exile Coalition. To all species listening, know this. The Council does not speak for the galaxy. They do not have the right to cage those they fear. We are free, and we will help free anyone else who asks." The message spread across the stars. In a single day, everything changed. Humanity had announced its return and the galaxy would never be the same. 5 years had passed since the barrier trapped Earth. The colonies were learning to survive on their own, but it was hard. Every day brought new challenges. Su-Bin Lee was an engineer on Busan Colony. Before the barrier, she had designed water systems and power plants. Now she was designing weapons. The colony needed to defend itself and they had to be smart about it. The problem was simple. Human technology was not as good as alien technology. Their ships were slower. Their weapons were weaker. In a fair fight, humans would always lose. So we don't fight fair, Su-Bin told her team. We fight smart. She studied every battle the colonies had fought. She looked for patterns. The aliens always expected certain things. They expected ships to fight in neat formations. They expected clear battle lines. They expected honor and rules. Humans threw all those expectations away. Su-Bin designed ships that could hide inside asteroid fields. She created fake signals to confuse enemy sensors. She taught pilots to retreat suddenly, making enemies chase them into traps. The aliens called it cheating. Su-Bin called it survival. But the colonies had another problem. They could not talk to each other easily. The distances were too great, and they did not have Earth's big communication networks anymore. Jiho An had worked in intelligence before the barrier. He was good at finding secrets and making connections. Now he had a new mission: connect all the human colonies. Jiho started small. He found old alien communication devices that the colonies had traded for before the barrier. He studied how they worked. Then he found something interesting. The aliens used things called jump gates to move quickly between star systems. These gates were everywhere, connecting the galaxy like roads. What if we could use those gates? Jiho thought. It took him 2 years, but he figured it out. By sending messages through the jump gate network, colonies could communicate within days instead of years. It was dangerous. If the council found out, they might shut down the gates. But it worked. The colonies started sharing everything: technology, food, information about alien neighbors. They were building their own network hidden from the council's eyes. Mars became the center of this secret network. The planet was outside Earth's barrier, but just barely. General Dong-hyun Park set up a military base there, hidden in the deep caves of Valles Marineris. Dong-hyun was old enough to remember Earth before the barrier. He had fought in Earth's last war, decades ago. Now he was teaching a new generation how to fight. These young people were different. They had grown up in the colonies, far from Earth. They did not fight for a planet they had never seen. They fought for their homes, for their families, for survival. Dong-hyun trained them hard. No fancy uniforms, no parade grounds, just practical skills: how to survive in space, how to use any weapon, how to think fast when everything went wrong. You are not soldiers of Earth, he told them. You are soldiers of humanity, and humanity is everywhere the stars shine. The colonies were adapting in other ways too. Dr. Yoon-ji Kwon ran a research station on a small moon. Her job was to study alien technology and figure out how it worked. Before the barrier, Earth scientists had been careful and slow. They followed rules. They did proper research. They took years to develop new technology. Yoon-ji did not have years. Her colony needed weapons and shields and faster engines now, so she took risks. She tried things that should not work. Sometimes equipment exploded. Sometimes people got hurt. But sometimes they made breakthroughs that would have taken Earth decades. In just 5 years, human colonies had technology that matched some council species. It was not perfect. It was not pretty. But it worked. The council had made a mistake. They thought isolating humanity would stop them from advancing. Instead, it forced humans to advance faster than ever before. Then Bora Shin made a discovery that changed everything. Bora was the captain of a colony transport ship. She carried supplies between human settlements. One day, her ship's engine broke down near an unknown planet. She had to land and make repairs. The planet was not empty. A small alien settlement was there. But these aliens were strange. They lived in ruins, hiding from something. Bora approached carefully. She did not want trouble. The aliens pointed weapons at her, but they looked scared, not angry. "I am not here to fight," Bora said. "I just need to repair my ship." The aliens lowered their weapons slowly. They called themselves the Trell. They looked almost human, but with silver skin and large black eyes. "Why are you hiding?" Bora asked. The Trell leader, whose name sounded like a whisper, explained. "The council quarantined us too, 50 years ago. They said we were too aggressive, too dangerous. They sealed our home system just like they did to your Earth. Bora felt her heart skip. You mean humanity is not the only one? The Trell laughed bitterly. The Council has quarantined 7 species in the last 1,000 years. They do it whenever they feel threatened. They call it protection. We call it prison. How did you escape? Bora asked. The Trell explained that their barrier had weakened over time. Some of their people managed to slip through, but they could never go home. The barrier was still there, trapping most of their species. Bora reported this back to the colonies. The news spread quickly. Humanity was not alone in suffering. Other species had been abandoned by the Council too. And if they could find each other, maybe they could help each other. Jiho used his network to search for other quarantined species. He found them. The Vorn, beings made of living crystal. The Dresh, mechanical beings who thought with electronic minds. And others, all hiding in the shadows of the galaxy. They all had the same story. The Council had judged them, found them wanting, locked them away. Governor Mina Song organized a secret meeting. Representatives from 5 quarantined species gathered on a neutral station. It was dangerous. If the Council found out, they might attack. But it was necessary. We have all been wronged, Mina told the gathering. The Council fears change. They fear any species that might challenge their control. But together we are strong. The Trell representative nodded. What do you propose? An alliance, Mina said. We share technology. We share knowledge. We protect each other. And someday when we are ready, we show the Council that they cannot cage us forever. It was a dangerous idea. But everyone in that room had already lost everything. They had nothing left to lose. Back on Earth, Dr. Kang was still working on the barrier. He had teams of scientists studying it from every angle. They had learned a lot, but breaking through seemed impossible. The barrier was not just a wall. It was connected to the solar system itself, drawing power from the sun and planets. To break it, they would need more energy than Earth could produce. But Kang noticed something. The barrier was not completely solid. It had tiny fluctuations, moments where it weakened for just a fraction of a second. These moments were random and impossible to predict. But they gave him hope. If we can find the pattern, he told President Choi, we might be able to collapse the barrier from inside. How long will that take? Choi asked. Kang looked tired. Years, maybe decades. But we will never stop trying. The colonies did not have decades. They were changing now, adapting now, growing now. They were becoming something new, not quite the humanity that Earth remembered. Something harder, something stronger, and the Galactic Council still had no idea what was coming. The Battle of Sol changed everything. The Council's image of invincibility was shattered. If humans could defeat a Council fleet, maybe the Council was not so powerful after all. High Marshal Kyung-Soo Park led the Exile Coalition on what they called the Liberation Campaign. They went from system to system, finding species the Council had oppressed or quarantined. They offered them a choice: stay under Council control, or join the coalition and be free. Most chose freedom. In just 10 years, humanity went from a few scattered colonies to controlling 200 star systems. They were not conquering. They were liberating. But the result was the same. Human influence spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Human colony ships were different from Council vessels. They were built fast and cheap, using technology from a dozen different species. They were not pretty, but they worked. And they appeared everywhere. The Council watched in horror as their carefully maintained order fell apart. Species that had been loyal for thousands of years started questioning Council authority. Trade routes changed. Old alliances broke. Rina O became Earth's Minister of Colonial Affairs. Her job was to manage the flood of new settlements and the millions of aliens who wanted to live in human space. She created what she called the Open Galaxy Policy. Any species suffering under Council rule could find sanctuary with humanity. It did not matter if they were powerful or weak, useful or not. If they wanted freedom, humans would help them. Millions of refugees came. The Trell brought their families. The Vorn colonies grew larger. New species nobody had heard of before appeared, grateful to finally escape Council control. Not everyone in humanity was happy about this. Some people thought they were growing too fast, taking too many risks, but most remembered what it felt like to be abandoned. They would not do that to others. The Council could not let this continue. They called an emergency session. All 15 member species gathered to discuss the human problem. The ancient Valdris, One of the oldest and most powerful council species spoke first. Their voice sounded like distant thunder. Humanity has become exactly what we feared. They spread without control. They ignore our laws. They steal our subjects. This must end. Some council members argued for negotiation. Others wanted economic sanctions. But the Valdris had already decided. They called for the creation of the Grand Armada. It would be the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 10,000 years. 12,000 warships from the most powerful council species. Their goal was simple: destroy human military power and force humanity back into isolation. Earth was the main target. If they could conquer the human homeworld, the colonies would fall apart. Fleet Admiral Seok Jin Yoon received the intelligence reports with a sick feeling in his stomach. 12,000 ships, Earth's entire fleet including the Exile Coalition, had maybe 4,000 vessels, and many of those were cargo ships with guns attached, not real warships. We cannot win a direct battle, Seok Jin told the War Council. If we try to fight them head-on, they will crush us. Then we do not fight head-on, said Colonel Hanul Kim. She was small and quiet, but everyone in the room knew her reputation. She ran humanity's black operations, the secret missions nobody talked about. Hanul explained her plan. While the Grand Armada was gathering, she would take teams deep into council space. They would not attack the Armada directly. Instead, they would hit the supply lines, the fuel depots, the communication hubs. They would make the council bleed from 1,000 small cuts. But there was more. Hanul's teams had been gathering information for years. They had proof that the council leadership had been lying to their own people. Council leaders had been stealing resources, suppressing technology, and crushing any species that might challenge their power. We show the galaxy who the council really is, Hanul said. We turn their own people against them. The plan was risky. Hanul's teams would be operating in enemy territory with no support. If they were caught, Earth would deny knowing about them. They would be alone. But Hanul and her people were used to being alone. That was what humans did best. Over the next 6 months, strange things started happening in council space. A fuel depot exploded. Communication networks went down. Supply ships disappeared. And every time, evidence appeared showing council corruption. Documents appeared on public networks showing how council leaders lived in luxury while their people worked in poverty. Videos showed council security forces crushing peaceful protests. Financial records revealed massive theft of resources. The council tried to call it all fake human propaganda, but the evidence was too strong, too detailed, too real. 6 council species voted to withdraw from the Grand Armada. They said they needed to investigate these claims first. In truth, they no longer trusted their own leadership. The Valdris were furious, but they pressed forward anyway. 6,000 ships were still more than enough to crush humanity. They would make an example of Earth that the galaxy would never forget. The Grand Armada jumped into human space near Neptune. Marshal Tae-hoon Song was in command of the defense. He had positioned his forces carefully, using the outer planets and asteroid belt as cover. The Valdris commander sent a message. Surrender Earth immediately, and your colonies will be spared. Resist, and we will destroy everything you have built. Tae-hoon sent back a single word. No. The Battle of Neptune Station began. The Valdris attacked in their traditional formation, proud and powerful, the human forces scattered like leaves in the wind. The Valdris thought the humans were running away. They were wrong. The humans were repositioning, drawing the enemy deeper into the solar system, splitting their forces. For 3 days, the battle raged. The Valdris were powerful, but they fought the same way they had for 10,000 years. Humans fought like they were still desperate colonists with everything to lose. On the 3rd day, when the Valdris thought victory was near, Earth began evacuating. Billions of people moved to underground shelters. Transport ships carried millions more to the Moon and Mars. The Valdris commander saw this and smiled. They are running. Continue the advance. We will take Earth itself. But Tae-hoon was not retreating. He was clearing the field for what came next. Suddenly, new jump signatures appeared throughout the solar system. Thousands of them. The entire Exile Coalition had arrived, along with every human ally from across the galaxy. Commander Jae-hyun Cho led the charge personally. His message broadcast to every ship in the system. The Council abandoned us once. We will not let them take our home. The Valdris suddenly found themselves surrounded. The battle turned into chaos. Human and alien ships worked together with perfect coordination, using tactics the Valdris had never seen before. The Valdris flagship, a massive vessel that had led their fleet for 3,000 years, took concentrated fire from 50 directions at once. Its shields failed. Its hull broke apart. It died. The remaining Valdris forces retreated in panic. They had come to make humanity an example. Instead, they had been humiliated. The proud Valdris, who had never known defeat, surrendered. They asked for peace terms. The Council's iron grip on the galaxy was broken forever. As Jae-hyun watched the last enemy ships jump away, he felt tired. So many years of fighting, so many lives lost. But they had won. Against all odds, humanity had won. The question now was what to do with that victory.